Okay, with this unit, we want to start our discussion about limits. Before we get into the concepts of limits, though, we need to talk about rational expressions. And we've dealt with these in various ways throughout the semester already. But being able to understand how these work can really help us solve additional problems. And they're the type of problems that come up a lot with limits. And so, with this first example A, we've got a set of three different equations. And in each one of those, we want to solve for x. But the key point, it says to identify any restrictions on the variable. And so first let's just start out by trying to solve it. So we've got this expression, 2 over x plus 2 equals 3 over 4x plus 17 over 8. With fractions, the key concept first is to get a common denominator, multiply it through, and then we should have a function that we can deal with more easily. So common denominator, so here I've got x in the denominator. I don't really have the denominator, or it's an assumed 1, if you want to think about it that way. In the denominator there, 4x in that one, 8x in that one. So my common denominator for this case would be 8x. So we want to multiply all by that common denominator. So if I take 8x times this entire expression, 2 over x plus 2 equals 3 over 4x plus 17 over 8. 8x with an x on the bottom, so I'm going to get 16 for this first term. 8 times 2 is 16. For just 2 by itself, I'm going to get 16x equals 8x divided by 4x cancels out and gives me 2, so this one will be 6. And then 17 eighths times 8x will give me 17x. So multiplied by the common denominator there. And then I can solve it. And so if I then subtract the common amount from each side, subtract 6 from this side, I get 10. I guess I'll skip a line there to keep it neat. 10. Subtract the 16x from both sides, I get x. So I get x equals 10 as an answer. The key thing I have to check there is, since I have things in the denominator, does that work? And so one thing to think about is what are restrictions? On the variable. And again, we've talked about this a little bit before when we talked early in the semester about the domain of a function. What values can this not have? We know that just x cannot equal 0, because if x is equal to 0, I'd be dividing by 0 here and everything falls apart. In this case, 10 is not equal to 0, so I'm okay. All right, part B. Again, an expression 2 over 5x plus 1/4 equals 39 over 10x minus 1/3. Again, trying to determine a common denominator. 5 and 4, the common denominator, least common denominator would be 20x. 10x would work with that, but that one doesn't. So we'd actually have to go up to multiplying everything by 60x would be the common denominator we get. That would cancel everything out. So 60 into 5, 60 times this part would go 12 times, so it would be 24 for the first time, 2 times 12, plus 1/4 of that would be 15x. 10x goes into that 6 times, so 6 times 39. So hopefully 234. And then minus 60, we'd end up with 20x here. Again, I would simplify by moving this to that side. Negative 20 becomes plus 20 over here. I end up with 35x. Subtract the 24 from over here. I end up with 210. So I get that x equals 6. Here's my answer. Restrictions. Again, I just can't have x equals 0. Because if I had it equal to 0, that would cause a problem. But I ended up with x equals 6, so I'm okay. Part C is x minus 5 over 2x plus 1 equals x plus 2 over x. So again, common denominator 2x. This is an implied 1. That's an x. So I need to multiply everything by 2x to get rid of the denominator. Again, if we want to already think about that, same restriction, which tells us that x cannot equal 0, because if the denominator is ever 0, we run into a problem. So multiply through there. That goes away. I get x minus 5. This term I get 2x. This term I get 2 times x plus 2. Combined terms over here on the left side, I get 3x minus 5. Distribute over on the right side, I get 2x plus 4. Subtracting the 2x, I get 3 minus 2x, I get x. 4 minus a negative 5, I get 9. So I get x equals 9, again with the restriction of x not equal to 0. So nothing that affected me there in this case, but I did want to make the note that the restriction existed.